A lot of news this week with Artemi Panarin. Anything new on that front, or is it just business as usual?
No, it's just business as usual. We're getting ready for the draft.
Jarmo, how do you counter understanding how to evaluate talent when they're playing in different leagues, different countries? How do you find the right way to compare player A to player B when you're evaluating talent?
It's tough, especially when you're comparing some major junior players who are almost like they're pros to guys that play, let's say, Minnesota high school. Because the top players in Minnesota high school can be great, and then the bottom players are not as good as the average player of a major junior league or the top junior leagues in Europe. So it's a tough job, but obviously we've developed some ways to compare with the statistics from the past, statistics from the players that made it from those areas and so forth. So it's not an exact science, and that makes it harder for sure.
Is that where the value of the eye test can also really come into play there as well?
Yeah, that's what it's mostly about. But I've always said it, that I believe in scouts watching the games a lot, watching the same player over and over and over again so that they get the average, they get the bad game, they get the good game, not just sort of an eye test where you think that you're some kind of a super scout and can identify talent right away when you see one game. That just doesn't happen.
Well, I think every GM is a best available player guy at the draft, especially middle of the first round. But when you've got a young defenseman, you've got a top pairing that's so young, if all things are equal, do you lean towards forward in this draft?
Probably. We feel that our depth chart's in pretty good order with the defensemen we have, their age and so forth. But I still think that once the player that we draft matures, it could be 5 years from now, and who knows what's going on with even Zach and Seth at that time. So many things can happen between now and then, and it's so unpredictable. So I think you still got to stick to your principle of taking the best player available. But if it's a tie, I'd say we'd probably lean towards taking it forward.
How much more fun is it to have a first-round pick?
Oh, it's a lot more fun. My daughter was the runner last year, and she's disappointed she didn't get to the stage. But especially for the scouts, they work all year. This is their show. I've been there many times. I did it for 15 years, and to sit there the whole first day, 3 hours, sometimes more, and not have that pick like we did last year, that's a long day, and it's hard to get to the first round if you don't have it. We tried last year and looked at all of our options to maybe get a first round pick to get to that round, but nobody wants to give them up unless you have multiple picks and some NHL players involved in the trade.
What's your assessment of just the overall talent that's in this draft as maybe compared to previous drafts, the last few?
Well, I think the best guys to answer that question would be the amateur scouts. Those guys see all the talent. I've seen the top guys in the draft, and I've watched video, and I've been to the tournaments, a couple of them, and it's supposed to be a good draft, but I say the same answer every time. Tell me how good the draft is. Ask me in 5 years. We'll see what becomes of these players, and we have great scouts, so we think they'll make this draft good and deep, and by picking the right players, not only in the first round but later on.
Billy was saying yesterday that he's pretty confident, if you guys are at 18, if you stay there, whatever, still get a good player there, that there's still a lot of talent at that point. He's projecting that. Is that what your guys' kind of general feel of the organization is? Or?
Yeah, and our list's pretty much done now, so we'll see. And if all of our top guys, our priority guys, are gone when we get to, let's say, 15, and it looks like it's getting thin, then we're going to look at moving back. And there are a few teams that we've targeted after 18 that could be moving up, and those talks are ongoing right now, and they'll heat up on the floor. So we'll see. Maybe we can pick up a second-round pick or second and third or something by moving up a few spots, and we've done that in the past, and that gives us more darts and a little more ammunition for the draft, and sometimes that's worked out real well for us. We drafted Oliver Bjorkstrand where we acquired an extra pick and got him with that pick, so those picks are important.
Jarmo, you mentioned in your statement a couple days ago regarding Panarin a willingness to continue to wait and see if he does change his mind. With that in mind, would you rule out trading him this weekend? Is that off the table to you? Do you give it more time than that, or if you get the right offer, do you make the move?
I never rule out anything. I say it all the time that we're in this business. If Gretzky got traded, nobody's untouchable, and I know it's a cliche and been heard before, but if somebody throws something at us that will make our team better, in the long run and makes sense for the organization, we have to listen and look at it. But our priority is to get him signed and do everything we can to persuade him to stay in Columbus for long term. He's a great player, and we also love him as a person, as a teammate. He's a great guy off the ice, and again, nothing but good things to say about Artemi.
Does your experience tell you that maybe the best offer you will get for a player in that situation, expiring contract, is at the draft? Or
well, we've looked at it just because we have to do that. It's our job, and I don't think there's that much of a difference between trading a player with 1 year left or trading a player at the deadline. The biggest difference is that at the deadline you're going to mostly get futures, because a team that's trading for a player at that time is going to want to make a run at the cup and doesn't want to take anything significant out of their lineup.
How difficult is it for you to even have to consider and listen to offers about trading a guy that you had a great year for you feel like could be a big part of your future moving forward?
It's my job. We have to take care of the Columbus Blue Jackets and the future of the franchise and the club. So that's what we'll do. That's what we were hired to do, and you have to take the emotion out of it. And like I said, Artemi's done everything right for us. He's been a great player for us. We love him. We want to have him for 8 years. We've made it clear to him that we want to have him as a big part of our future. We want to build our team around him, and that doesn't change. And we'll keep trying until it's too late. If it is too late, hopefully not.
What was your reaction when when him and his agent first told you that they wanted to wait? Were you surprised? Did you go into the offseason expecting to probably start negotiating sooner?
You always expect the unexpected in this business, and we call them curveballs, and every day or every week or regularly at least we get them in different forums, and then you got to deal with them, and it wasn't a pleasant day, I can say that.
Did his representative tell you why that he wanted to wait and not start negotiating a
Well,
deal?
you have to ask his representatives. I'm not going to get into that. Those are private conversations.
And Bob is in the same situation. Have you talked to his agent? Have you guys started with Bob at least, talking to him?
We've had some dialogue, and he's the same exact words can go for Bob. And he's a huge part of our franchise and team, and he's another guy that does everything right on and off the ice. He's a great pro and a great example and a leader in our team. So we hope to keep him for a long time.
is there a willingness on Bobrovsky's part to negotiate?
Pardon me?
Is there a willingness on Bobrovsky's part to negotiate?
Well, I don't want to get into any of the negotiations yet, but hey, same exact statement as I said about Artemi. We love Bob and we want to keep him.
But Bob's in a different boat than Artemi is right now.
That you'll have to ask Bob's representatives.
Have you had any discussions? The guys, unrestricted guys coming up, guys like Cole, Calvert, any discussion with their reps?
Yeah, we've had conversations with all of their representatives, but those are private conversations again, and we'll see where it goes. We still have time to get them signed before they get to the free agency, if that's the decision we make moving forward. But there are a lot of different options right now, a lot of talks, and so unless we can do that, we can change direction and do something else that we need to do if it's uncertain that we can come up with a contract with a player that we'd like to keep. So those are the decisions every team will have to make, and again, the free agents, they have that right July 1st, and we respect that. That's why they've waited for several years to get to that point, and sometimes there's just no agreement to be made, and you need to make an agreement and move forward. So we'll make those decisions, they'll make their decisions, and we'll see if we can meet in the middle and continue. If not, we'll make other decisions for the best of the organization.
Assuming you guys stay in the same trajectory that you are right now, always aiming for the playoffs, we're going in expecting you guys to be going for the playoffs next year. How hard would that be to even think about trading a guy like Panarin at the deadline if it came to that? I mean, when you're in the middle of a playoff push.
Yeah, obviously it would be hard, but again, you'd have to think of the future of the organization and weigh those things. We had similar situations that this deadline. You weigh what you might be able to get and for the future of the organization in a deal for a pending UFA, and then you weigh that against keeping the guy. And if it makes more sense to keep the guy for the rest of the year, we'll keep him. If it makes more sense for the organization to move a guy for something that's so good for the organization you can't pass on it, then you make the trade.
Panarin's situation gives Bobrovsky more leverage. In other words, would it be damaging for you to lose both of those guys?
I don't look at it that way. I look at every negotiation individually, and I've made it very clear how important they are for our team and our franchise. And UFA, when you're becoming a UFA, it's basically, okay, well, here's where we are, here's where they are. Can we meet somewhere and make an agreement? If not, we'll have to make decisions.